Ty Burrell, it's a really fine line for a character like Phil Dunphy. What makes him so lovable?
I think that you kind of all of those sorts of questions boil down, I think, primarily, or I would say, at least initially, to the writing. To write a character that is oblivious and has the impulses of essentially like a puppy dog or something, of that person not coming across as being negligent to his family or lecherous in the case of Gloria or whatever. And I think we've had a really, from the very beginning, it's been on our minds about the character, about how to walk that tightrope. And I think it's just been a really cool, challenging dialogue about like it actually boils down to each scene. Yeah. You know, where you come to a scene and if it's a scene with Gloria or if it's a scene with where Phil has chosen something else over his family or forgotten about his family or whatever it is, how basically talking it through. And then I would say that, none of us, it's always kind of in the back of your mind, maybe.
One word you mentioned was oblivious. Even since the beginning of the show, if you've ever watched MASH, I think he's got a little bit of Colonel Henry Blake in him, McLean Stevenson.
Yeah.
Just everybody loves him. He's very smart, but he's oblivious kind of what's going on around him.
I love that comparison. I'm a huge MASH fan, and I'm very flattered by that comparison. And I think it's actually a really, as far as the character, it's a really accurate, or to my mind, it's a very accurate comparison because Blake is smart. Blake was smart. He just was also a little bit head in the clouds, or not a little bit, a lot. But and also the writing on that show was so strong about also giving him kind of depth and as was the actor. But you have to have that foundation of great writing, I think.
Well, Ty, normally when we ask this kind of question, where I say, what's it like working with your cast? Are they really great people? We usually get the same kind of responses. But I'm curious for Modern Family, given that we've already spoken to a couple of your cast members, what's it like when you get to work with other members of the family that you don't normally really get to interplay with very often? Do you really relish those opportunities?
Yeah, you get really excited because you are kind of as much of an ensemble show as it is, we often are working with our own immediate families, so to speak. So, which, is its own joy, but you kind of like when you find out that there's a new combination that you're going to be working with, you get really excited because you've been watching, I would say this, is probably true of other folks in the show, but you're watching other people as a fan almost, because some of the stuff you're not really filming with them. And so when you get a chance to I'm going to work with, Jesse this week. We've got a whole storyline, I'm usually running home from the table read to tell my wife, to say guess what, I'm going to do a whole thing with Jesse this week. It's going to be really fun. So yeah, it's really exciting. And I would say, just looking across the board, I feel so honored to be on a show where so many people are so good, where that's the case, where if including the kids, without a doubt, where if you find out I've got a storyline with Rico or Nolan or Sarah or Ariel, you get just as excited, which is really amazing. I mean, I think not in any way to bash kid actors, but I think it's a very rare thing to have 4 kids that are just ridiculously more capable than I am.
Well, when we talked to Eric Stonestreet a couple of weeks ago, he said that the one thing the writers haven't done yet, because maybe they're a little afraid to, is put you and him together like just in a solo or duet kind of a scene. He said the two of you improv so much, and they were kind of afraid maybe to pair the two of you up for a storyline.
I do sense a little hesitance. We've come up with storyline ideas, and they just keep pushing them back. I think because we've only had one scene together, and we goofed off so much. We had a tag to one of the very first. Oh gosh, I can't remember. In the first season, God, that's a really fun thing to be able to say in our first season. I've never had a job for more than a couple months, so it's nice to say that back in our first season. But it was a show early on, and it was the card tricks in the tag of the episode, and it's kind of been our only real kind of bit that we've gotten to do together, and it was about like an hour and a half of us improvising, stupidity. And Jesse was in the background the whole time holding on to the doll of Lily, which is really heavy because they want to give it like lifelike weight. And Jesse was so mad. He was just so mad at us. Like every time we do some other stupid thing, he was like, "Oh, really? Another one? Like, let's go. Let's get on with it." So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you've never had a job for as long as this one, and you've been around for a long time, Ty, and finally you're on a show that is really probably TV's number one show in terms of critical acclaim. It won the Emmy last year. What was that like, going up on stage with all the cast and crew?
Yeah, just absurd, just really surreal. I still, it's funny, like, I still don't know if that completely sunk in. You get kind of a mentality, I think, when you're work a day actor or something, that really is very, very far off in the distance. It's very much a daydream, and even a few months removed, it kind of occupies the same place as the other daydreams I had. It's hard to tell the difference about which one was real, because you kind of imagine, like, wow, what would it be one day to be on a show that was that rewarding and then recognized, I guess, for its creativity.
Well, beyond the show, just in the last 12 months alone, I have to get my notes here because there's so many. You yourself have been nominated for an Emmy Award, SAG Award, TV Critics Award, the brand new Broadcast TV Critics Award, and your whole cast won for Comedy Ensemble at SAG. Tell us about that particular win itself. Being an actor that's been working so long to get a recognition as part of the ensemble from all of your guild members.
Well, it's always been my favorite award. Honestly, even just to vote for before I was ever in the running. I'm talking about the Ensemble Award. I'm a huge sports fan, and I just have always been fascinated by teams and the way, the way teams work, the way personalities fit together. And so I've always really loved voting for that since I've been a member of SAG, and thinking about it and thinking about, well, what makes best ensemble. And so winning that one was, along with the Emmy, I would say, was kind of the highlight for me. I also felt like our show is unique in how even the load is amongst the characters, including the kids. So I think we all took a lot of pride in that award. So I was really just really thrilled about that one, and we all went off and just celebrated together. It was a fun night.
Of ensembles, you might even see your own smaller little ensemble in a supporting actor in a comedy series category this summer at the Emmys, because a lot of people are expecting that you and Jesse and Eric will repeat, and hopefully Ed as well. So looking forward to the Emmys, have you given any thought at all to maybe any episode highlights from season 2?
I've started to think about it a little bit. It's one of those things that you don't think about obviously when you're making them, and it's kind of weird to think about in terms of I guess in terms of like a competition or something. But it is always fun to revisit those episodes and think like, well, what's the most what's the most telling episode about Phil? I feel like maybe Good Cop, Bad Dog is one of them. I also think it was kind of a virtuoso writing episode as far as the writers going through and sort of explaining why the characters are what they are and why that they're kind of best suited to sort of stay in those roles. Not just to answer fans' questions, I think, but also to kind of, I think for us as well, to kind of provide a little bit of depth to the characters and a little bit of sort of a foundation for why Phil and Claire occupy the roles that they do. I also have the episode, the graduation episode, which was our penultimate episode this season, was a particular favorite of mine because it was sort of it's a mad world for Julie and I. Or did I get enough mads in there? Is it 5 mads?
There might be another one, yeah.
Yeah. But for Julie and I, it was just a really fun episode. And I also have to say that it was one of the most fun episodes to make. Not that has anything to do with, selecting episodes or any of that, but it was just an incredibly fun episode to make. From beginning to end, all of it, the bicycle and the falling, and also just us all being together as a cast, just cracking each other up, and it was fun.
Well, another one, I think Rob and I talked about both of those, and we talked about this year's Valentine's episode, which was Bixby's Back, as maybe being a possibility as well. Is that a fun one for you to do this year?
Yeah, really fun. Really fun. I love that. I hope that the audience doesn't tire of those characters, because we get really excited. I mean, when Valentine's was coming around this season, we Julie and I both just got so excited about revisiting those characters, because it's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's definitely probably a thought as well. I have to kind of have a little confab with my wife.
Yeah, she's a little more objective than you are, since she's not actually doing the performance.
Yeah, right.
Well, you've got an unusual situation in that maybe all 4 of the adult guys from the show get in. It would be a first. It's never happened before, at least in the comedy category. Maybe the 4 of you just fight it out on stage, and whoever gets to the Emmy first, you can have it.
I do not want to fight Ed O'Neill. I'll tell you that much right now. That is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
You probably watched him all these years on Married with Children, and he's been in a ton of other projects and movies and so forth. When you first got the job, you knew he was going to be your father-in-law. What did you think, and what have you learned from him, say, over the last 2 seasons that's helped you as an actor?
Well, I loved him on Married with Children, but I also have just been a big fan of his work. I think, by his own admission, he did well enough on Married with Children that he really got to choose whatever parts he wanted to do after that. And I always thought that he picked such good material. I mean, that's a luxury. It is a luxury. Most actors, don't have the luxury, but he really has really taken advantage of that. And if you go through his film career, it's just really impressive. I just think he's done incredible work with Mamet and Milch and all these great writer directors, and Ed's always amazing in them. So I was really really excited, actually. I think Ed is just kind of a phenomenal actor all the way around, and obviously he's a great comedian. He's also been, he's been a real, he's helped us through this period because obviously Champagne Problems, to have a hit show, not the worst thing in the world, but it comes with a few complications, and he is very good at sort of like talking you through the way that, he's been through every one of these scenarios before, every one of them, and he just can kind of say, like, well, this is what I did, or this is what we should do here, and he's been a very, very good sort of touchstone, I think, for us.
Well, so I hope you're going to be okay with going up against him if you're all up for the same award in July and then in September. But a lot of people have their fingers crossed for Modern Family again. It's probably going to kill at the Emmys, and we wish you all the best and good luck.
I thank you so much. I really do. That would be an amazing thing if it happens. But we're grateful to have the show regardless. I really appreciate you guys taking the time.